So with the piping bag, carefully fill the tube. So once that's full, just need to pop it back in the freezer for about 30 minutes and firm the sorbet up. While they're firming up, remove the banana parfait from the fridge. And with a spatula, fill the mould about 2/3 full. And then carefully, in the centre of the mould, place the tube and press down. You basically want it to be in the middle of the mould. Then we just need to cover the top with more of the parfait mixture. Just make sure that you've got no air pockets. Okay, once that's full, guess what? Back into the freezer. So, I had the right sponge, the right ice cream, and the right sorbet. Next, getting the right light meringue covering. While I was with Peter Barham in Bristol, we tried one of Nicholas Curtis' methods for creating the lightest possible meringue using whipped egg whites, sugar, and a vacuum pump.
The amount we need is probably about that much, actually. Hardly any at all for this.
So all that work?
Yeah, all that work for that tiny bit, Heston, yeah.
When meringue cooks in an oven, the heat drives the water away slowly. A vacuum pump does the same thing, but much more quickly.
So we're going to end up with a very light cooked meringue at room temperature. And there goes the meringue. Oh, dear me. Now that's not going to happen. I'm going to sit down.
Peter ordered me to whip up more egg whites, but with extra sugar for a stiffer mix.
You want to try and make a big one? Put that on the little hot plate, carefully. Come on.
15 minutes later...
Yeah, that is very light, isn't it?
Very light.
That works fairly well. So that's what Nicholas's way of making a meringue would have been. It does work.
Though tempted, I decided I wouldn't be recommending a vacuum pump to make meringue in a domestic kitchen. This is a really good example of how blinkered you could be to everything else. So this complete obsession for, okay, let's say the lightest meringue, the most air, without stepping back and saying, okay, well, do we really want the most air in there? Is that going to be is that going to give us the best result? Back at the lab, Chris and I tested eggs from different sorts of bird to see which made the best meringue. It's the proteins in an egg that determine how well it whisks. Raw egg whites contain curled up proteins made of 2 different amino acids. One loves air, the other water. Whisking air into the egg white attracts the air-loving end of each protein strand and it uncurls. These uncurled protein strands then bond with each other, end to end, to create a wall around the air bubbles. To measure which retained the most air, we weighed exactly the same volume of each meringue. There was no clear winner. We got similar results from week-old chicken eggs, fresh chicken eggs to which we'd added a touch of tartaric acid, and fresh chicken eggs which had been whipped in a copper bowl.
That was better than the duck eggs, about the same as the fresh chicken eggs.
You know what we have to do now?
Tartaric acid, old eggs in a copper bowl.
We're going to max out on meringue here. Whoa, this is coming up nicely. Well, the result's not that good.
It's not as good as any of the tartaric acid or copper bowls on their own.
I think somewhere along the line that to what you call over-egging the pudding. Hey. So after all of those tests in the lab, we eventually decided to go for 7 to 10-day-old chicken eggs in a Swiss meringue. The idea with this is that I've got the pan, the bowl of the mixer with the egg whites in it, pan of water, medium heat, and we need to bring these egg whites up to 60 degrees centigrade. This should take 5 to 10 minutes. Basically, whisking the egg whites over the heat helps stabilize the mixture. The heat's going to start actually coagulating the proteins in the egg white, and that will create a more stable foam. Okay, that's now reached 60 degrees. As this is meringue day, better stick it in another mixing bowl. Now to this, I'm going to add some sugar, and then leave that mixing on 3/4 speed for about 5 minutes. While that's mixing, put some butter in a pan. And do you remember the super light cake that we made for the base? Well, here it is. Trim the cake to the same dimensions as the banana parfait that is in the freezer. Fry it gently on both sides for a short time in the melted butter until golden brown. Leave to cool. Meanwhile, fill a piping bag with the Swiss meringue and set aside. Next, spread some bitter orange marmalade evenly across one side of the cooled sponge and top with banana parfait. Place on a baking tray and pipe over the meringue. Put in the oven until the meringue starts to caramelize. My memory, and I think most people's memories of baked Alaska, a lot of people can't remember what it actually tasted like. But we all remember the flaming. That's really striking. And this dish is about contrasts. So the opposites of flame, the opposite to hot is cold. The opposite to very hot flaming is something with cold vapor. The vapors under my baked Alaska are from a bed of dry ice. Now that is my perfect baked Alaska.
Ding, 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 ding.